I want to talk a little bit about phone addiction in this video. I talk to many of you in my one-to-one calls, and I'm very fortunate to have that opportunity. And a lot of you struggle with phone addiction. This is very common nowadays. Everywhere we go, we see people just like on this little device right here, just looking into it, giving it all of their attention and totally zoned out way too much. And I want to share my experience with phone addiction so that you can actually take some of this information and apply it to your life so that you can just feel better. And even before I talk about my experience, I want to talk a little bit about how phone addiction works. So all addiction, whatever form of addiction it is a form of avoidance. You're avoiding pain, right? You're avoiding the present experience. You're avoiding yourself. Really, it's the avoidance of pain. That's at the bottom. It's the sort of bottom line of it. That's the fundamental component. So whether it's an alcohol addiction, a drug addiction, phone addiction, junk food addiction, entertainment addiction, sex addiction, you're just chasing pleasure and avoiding pain. It's the same pattern in practically everything. You're chasing what is familiar. You're trying to feel safe. You're trying to feel secure. You're trying to feel good. And you're finding that in some kind of, addiction cycle. And I'm not saying that all addictions actually feel good. Addiction does not feel good. Addiction is very painful, but you get that like quick hit of pleasure or familiarity or just a sense of comfort being in the pattern of it. So addiction's complicated, but really, like I said, at the fundamental level, it's just the avoidance of pain, trying to be happy. That's what's going on here. So your phone addiction is a coping mechanism for your pain. This is like the bottom line once again. We're getting to the root of it here. Really look at your phone addiction and why you use it. You use it to avoid unprocessed emotions like stress, anxiety, boredom, frustration, feelings of overwhelm, just a sense of not being satisfied. You escape into your phone for stimulation so that you can feel good. And what are you avoiding in that experience? Which we'll go into a little bit more depth about that soon. You use your phone addiction to avoid your trauma. Your avoidance mechanism is itself a form of trauma, and you just use your phone to distract yourself. You use this as a distraction from all the things that I've just mentioned, and you can even deny the existence of these things, and then you just kind of stay stuck in the pattern, and you go down life. You go down that direction in life. So I want to talk a little bit about breaking the habit of phone addiction and how I did it so that you can just relate to my experience and apply it to your life. So whenever you break any habit, there's now an empty space in your life and it has to be replaced with something else. It's like if all you've ate is junk food and now you stop eating junk food, you got to eat something. So you got to replace it with a higher quality pattern, which is eating healthier food, fruits and vegetables. It's the same thing with any habit. If you break the habit of being on your phone, you're going to have to replace it with something because you're going to have that empty space in your life and you're going to find yourself doing something. You're going to find yourself giving your attention to something. So you got to create that new thing. But let's start one step at a time. We'll start strictly with breaking the pattern. First thing I have is process the underlying emotions that are driving you to grab your phone. So this video is going to be full of inner psychological mechanisms and environmental triggers that keep this pattern in place in your life. So notice yourself when you're reaching for your phone. Don't just allow this to happen on autopilot. Really notice that 90 to 95% of what you're doing is controlled by your subconscious. It's like you're acting it out mechanically and with little to no awareness whatsoever. It's just playing itself out. It's a pattern, it's a loop that you're stuck in. And it's honestly quite scary. So when you go to reach for your phone, notice your state. Right in that experience, when you're like, the thought arises, where's my phone? What's your state? What's your body like? Is it tense? Is there tension in your gut? Do you have your raised shoulders, or your shoulders raised? How does your heart feel? Is there like a contraction in your chest, or does it feel like open? Do you actually feel in love with life? Right? Do you feel satisfied in the present? Do you feel stressed, anxious, frustrated? What's your feeling? What does your state feel like? What kind of thoughts do you have? And when you grab your phone, you're basically giving your energy and your attention to an avoidance pattern, and it keeps all of the things that you're repressing inside of you, which of course doesn't ultimately work, and it's a very poor strategy for living life. So instead, what I'm saying is to learn how to process your sadness, learn how to relate to your grief, your shame, your embarrassment, your stress, your overwhelm. Learn to feel it head on. I have a previous video called Regulate Your Energy, goes more into depth about this. But really be your own whistleblower. When you're distracting yourself with your phone, call yourself out. I'm distracting myself with my phone. I'm just avoiding myself. Right? Just state it to yourself clearly. You want to be very honest about this and what you're really doing. You want to bring your shadow out of the dark here. You don't want to just live this repetitive lifestyle where you're trapped in just this ongoing loop that's fueled by shame, grief, stress, just all the sadness, all the things that you have avoided, all the more painful things that you've avoided that linger on inside of you. So a good way to do that is by practicing meditation, but that's a little bit later on in the video. I'm kind of jumping ahead. I'm just talking about strictly how do you actually really break it. Next is your environment. Where is your phone? Is it in your pocket? Is it on your desk next to you? Is it in just like a very easy place to grab? Most people leave their phone in just a very easy place for them to just grab, and then they're just on their phone. Like if the most stimulating thing in your environment is right next to you, obviously you're going to find yourself on it over and over and over again, especially when you feel pain, right? Because it's just wired into your mind to keep doing it. So set up your environment consciously. Actually strategize this one. I leave my phone in a drawer for the vast majority of the day. I don't go on it. When I'm trying to think of when I check my phone, if I'm going to go outside and I want to see if anyone's messaged me, other than that, like maybe just to message some people sometimes, and then I'm off of it. I'm not scrolling the feed on Instagram over and over and over and over again. I'm just like not using it for these things. When I'm using it, I actually have a purpose for it. I have an intention for using it, usually to connect with someone. Let's say I'm going to go hang out with some people, text them, call them. Yeah, just things like that for purely communication reasons, as a phone is meant to be used. Not for like crazy video games and nonstop music and porn and just endless garbage. So set up your environment properly. Like I said, I put my phone in a drawer for the majority of the day. It's out of sight. It's not in my pocket. It's not easy for it to... I make it harder for me to go on it. Right? Put it in a different room. Give it to someone else. Just hand it over to someone else in your family or in your friend group or your roommate. Say, hey, I don't want to go on this phone till 6 p.m. today. Hand them your phone. Now, you're forced to do something else. You're forced to confront your own boredom, your own lack of routine in your life, your own lack of life purpose. You got no choice now. So now that you've learned some of the basics to breaking this pattern, which is processing your emotions, setting up your environment properly, and really being honest with yourself, calling yourself out when you're avoiding yourself, you have to replace this habit with healthy things. And a lot of these healthy things are going to be very good for just cultivating a deeper connection to yourself. Because another one of the core reasons as to why you're habitually using your phone is because you don't have a deep connection to yourself. If you had a very deep connection to yourself, you would not want to be habitually using your phone. Habitually using your phone slowly just disassociates you from yourself. It's pulling you out of the present. It's just disconnecting you from yourself. It's actually causing psychological illness within you, and it's already fueled by forms of psychological illness. So what do you replace this with? Emotionally intelligent things. Things that actually contribute to your regulation, to your well-being, to your health. I mean, what else are you going to replace it with? So things like that can be meditation, that being a very good one. Because this is how you're going to ground a lot of these emotional processing techniques that I'm telling you about. This is how you're going to get clear about your avoidance mechanisms. This is how you're going to be honest with yourself. You need to build that self-awareness and that ability to just regulate. A good way to do that is by having a habitual meditation practice. This is how you bring these concepts into your life. This is how you make them your identity. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where you actually make the changes in your life that you've been wanting to make. Having some kind of routine in your life. So instead of waking up and the first thing you do is grabbing your phone, right, because you probably use it as an alarm clock, don't do that. Buy an alarm clock. Get something else other than your phone. Remove your phone from your room in general, right? So now you wake up, you have to hit your actual alarm clock now. Have a routine. Go to the gym. Go for a walk. Drink some lemon water. Eat some fruit. Read a little bit of a book. Meditate, journal, go into nature. Figure out, what you want to be doing. Figure out healthy things that work with you. Next is self-actualizing. Take your self-actualization seriously. Take your consciousness seriously. Replace your phone habit with things that help you to just raise your consciousness. Contemplation, meditation, self-inquiry. Education as well. Instead of just using your phone to zone out and make your mind kind of dull and foggy and lacking in clarity, replace it with education. Replace it with reading. Replace it with gratitude. Replace it with nature. Find healthy things that you can give your attention to and continuously give them your attention. Redirect your attention away from your phone. Like I said, put your phone in a drawer, put it in a different room, buy one of those lock boxes with a timer on it. You put your phone in there, you lock it for 5 hours. There's a timer on it. Give it to your roommate, parent, sibling, girlfriend, boyfriend. I don't want to be on it until 7 p.m., 6 p.m., whenever. Right? Use the relationships you have in your life as a form of accountability. So what do you really want to replace the habit with? When you're not on your phone, you're going to be doing something. Your attention will be going somewhere. What is going to be getting your attention? Is it beneficial to you, or is it self-destructive? Is it helping you to regulate yourself more, feel more connected to yourself, to the full spectrum of your existence, or is it just slowly disassociating you from existence and making you feel rather numb and dull and foggy and kind of just depressed and like you are unmotivated and don't want to do anything? So this is basically how I quit my phone addiction. This is the exact method I used. I paid attention to the psychological factors and the environmental factors that created this experience for me, and I recognized that, I was completely in control of this. And then I filled up my life with other things related to my life purpose, to my well-being, to my consciousness, to my connections, my relationships, things like this. So that's it for this video. I'm offering one-to-one coaching. You can book a free call. Link is in the pinned comment or the description. Take it easy.